Hi everyone, I'm Ferd and welcome to my video. Today I'm working on a Cub Cadet XT1 2018. Fuel injected, got the push button starter, Bluetooth enabled, and the problem with it is the mower deck belt keeps falling off of it. So I'm going to go through this thing, do a full service on it, see why the belt's falling off. I can see the tires on the front are sticking out like that, so I'm going to adjust them in a little bit and just go over everything so she can mow her grass and be worry-free all summer long. Let's get the deck off of this thing and see why that belt keeps falling off of it. Now, looks pretty standard for Cub Cadet. You got a clip back here. First you got to lower the deck, and then we got a clip back here that comes off of it. There we go. Up here on the front we've got a clip over here on the other side. This one looks pretty easy. I mean, we've got this one clip. We'll go over and do the other side, take that one off, and then we got to come back over here and disconnect the cable that's back here in this corner. So let me go get those other clips off of it. Take that out, pull that out. Release the other side. And then we're going to raise the lever for the deck back up. Ouch. We need to get the belt off of there. So most of your hacks would take this belt off by bending this bracket here. It's got a number 8 on it. So let me go get a ratchet, take that off. Don't bend that bracket. It's got just the one screw on this side. And it comes right off of there. And it just plugs in the other side. So now we can drop the belt off of it. We're going to pull the deck out this way. And then you can see right back here, there's another little clip. We need to take that off of there. And then we're going to remove the cable from where it hooks right up here. Push the pulley over and get that tension off of that spring. Get it back to that cable, and then you can pop it right out of there. And then unhook your spring from that lever. The deck should be ready to come out. We'll just now, from what I'm seeing here, it's got a new belt, and it looks like somebody may have put it on wrong over here. I haven't taken that off of it. This should go around that pulley that way. That looks really, really loose. And it'll go down behind this bracket here. Like that. And then this puts the tension on it. So that's all that's wrong with it. This looks a little loose. So I'm going to tighten that up, but still I'm going to check everything out. It does get a full service. That's all that's wrong with this thing. Somebody put that on wrong. Either that or it fell off because that pulley came loose on it. They all feel good, so this is an easy fix. And the little bit of elbow grease and a couple putty knives. I cleaned the bottom of the deck, cleaned those blades off, got them sharpened back up, and that part of the service is done. Now, one thing about this is 2018, I mean, it does have a few years on it, but there's a lot of rust where this thing has never been scraped off, and it was caked on there pretty good. Very important. Scrape it as much as you can. Next thing, I guess I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to work on this side of it. Get this tightened up. Then I'm going to go up here and adjust that wheel, change the oil in it, and that's pretty much all this thing really needs. Let me tighten this thing down. And it's just a bolt down here. It feels like a 9/16. It's so loose I can unscrew that with my fingers. And I'm going to loosen this thing up. There we go, that's enough where I can get my belt on there. And there we go. That one goes all the way through, and that one there's loose. This one. Now this other one, I'm gonna have to come into the back side, this little hole right here, and there's a nut in there. Get on that, lean up where I can get arm around it. Put a socket on the other side and hold it. Ouch, oh God. Oh man, do this before you put those blades on there. I just cut my finger. And I'm just going to hold this side, and I'm going to tighten the other side because I don't want to cut my finger off. Man, look at that. Oh, shit. Damn it. Ah, bleeding to death. Okay, those things are tight. Now, if you look at that left side, you can see the wheel kicked out quite a bit. The one on the right, the steering wheel's not even really straight up and down, but that really don't matter on these things. But if I straighten this wheel out to where it looks like perfectly in line, you can see how far this other one is kicked out. Now that might be because he might have hit something up there and bent the rod or whatever, but I'm going to just straighten the wheel, and it's okay if the toe's pointing out just a little bit on it. They'll change when you move forward. They'll want to go outwards, and then when you back up they want to go outwards on the back side of it. So there's a little bit of play in there, but I'm going to go ahead and adjust this side in. I'm going to take the rod loose right there. I've got my 9/16 inch socket to loosen the bolt underneath. I've got a 1/2 inch that I'm going to use right here, and then I've got an 11/16. I'm going to loosen this rod up with it before I loosen anything else. Get that one, this one in here. And I also noticed this thing was really hard to push. Though I didn't have to push it, I could have drove it in, but it was only a couple of feet. I usually just push them in. pretty tight. Now I can take my rod out, and we're going to want to screw these inwards. A couple turns. I'll do that one. Screw that one in a couple times. And let's see what we got here. I'm going to go ahead and push that wheel over this way and see if I can get it about where I want it. And that looks a lot better. What do you think? We'll just go with that. So now all I need to do is tighten everything back down. It's hard doing this upside down. There we go. Tighten these back down. Lift that up a little bit. That looks a lot better. Okay, what you see me doing here is what I refer to as an air bath. And it's just basically blowing all the grass off of this thing. Clean it up the best I can. Taking the air filter off, blowing that out. It's got a fairly new one, so I don't have to replace it. And if the thing was caked in grease and oil and was real muddy, I would have used a pressure washer on it. And then I'll go down and, blow off the deck as well. And clean it up, make it look halfway decent. All right. Now the engine's hot. I'm going to change out the oil in it. As simple as it sounds, there are some things with oil changes on lawnmowers you have to kind of look out for. One is this little bugger right here. And let me show you. I've seen several engines, good engines, burn up because of these. It's because they come loose, and you can see that one there is fairly loose. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drain all the oil out of this thing. And once I get that done, I'm going to take that off there. I'm going to put some new Teflon tape on it and thread it back in there. I always check these things because they will come off, and when they do, you lose all your oil and it'll blow your engine up. You can see I got a hose here that kind of fits over that thing. Give it a little twist, pop it out that way, and then the oil starts flowing. Let's let that drain for a little bit. All right, I unscrewed it off of there. I got a jack under this side here, and I got this thing tilted that way. I don't really want that much oil on the threads or on this thing when I screw it back in there. Ouch, ouch. Tell you what, man, when you're using that cleaner, you got any cuts or scratches or whatever, it'll let you know. And we'll go around this thing maybe about 3 times. Now, pay attention to how I'm holding that wrench close to the very top of it there. I don't want much torque. This gives me the ability to feel how tight this thing's getting as it goes in. You can see that plug there. It has a tapered thread on it, and it gets tighter the further that it goes in. You don't want to crank this thing all the way down. With that big wrench, it still feels loose, but I mean, try to turn it with your fingers, it's pretty tight. Kind of an art. There's really no torque specifications or anything. You just kind of got to use your common sense on it. Push it over to the other side, and I'm gonna take that oil filter off there, get that changed, fill it back up with oil. Well, I still got it tilted up this way. I got this little piece of metal that I've kind of bent, and it's shabby, but what I do is I'll take that, I like to put it under the filters as far as I can, and that way when I unscrew this thing, the oil's not going back up under the engine. Oh man, this thing's on there. Woo! Oh man. You need them tight, but man, not like that. Oh my goodness gracious. Okay, there it went. That thing's still tight. There we go. Another thing I like to do when putting a new filter on is I'll take the seal off of it. Just put a little bit of oil on it. Just a little bit. Just something my dad taught me when I was a kid, changing the oil in his car. It kind of makes sense, so I mean, that's what I do. They got certain directions for putting these filters on, but what I'll do, because I've had these things come loose before, and luckily caught it before it done any damage, but what I'll do is get down there hand tight, and then I'll turn that thing probably about 3/4 of a turn. Nowhere near as tight as that other one was though. Because the last thing I would want to do is have to buy one of these motors. I guarantee you this one ain't cheap. This one has an hour meter, so I'm going to put the hours on it. If it doesn't, I usually just put the date. So we'll put 97.8 hours. That way we can keep track of how long that thing's been on there. Maybe I'll go ahead and put the date up here on the top of this one too. They recommend every 50 hours to change the filters. Okay, I filled the oil to the top hole, put the cap on it, started it up, ran it for 2 or 3 minutes, checked it again, and then had to refill it because you have to account for the filter. It used probably about a pint of oil, so I'm going to fill it back up to that second hole right there, and then the oil change is done. While the oil was settling and everything, I went ahead and greased the front end. There's only a grease fitting on the wheel and on the axle, and I haven't seen anything else on it, so that's pretty much it for lubing it. Put the deck on it, the hood back on it, and take it out and see if it cuts grass. Okay, to put the deck back on, just going to do it the same way I took it off. I'll scoot her back in there. Hook that cable back up right off the bat. Just remember to grab that pulley, the one that was loose, and push on it and relieve the tension off of that cable. And we're going to drop the deck back down the lever. Get her hole lined up on this side. Put her belt back up there. Okay, just make sure you get it in that other hole over there. Tighten that back down. Working my way on around. Put this thing back in. This is what attaches to the front of the deck. It's got two holes in the front there for it to go in, and my memory doesn't work too well these days, and I wonder for sure which one it was. So you might want to keep that in mind when you take it off to remember which hole it was. It's actually this very front one. Another part here in the back. And there we go. It's one of the easiest decks I've ever put on. They're actually making progress on things. So here it goes up and down. Put this hood back on. These you just find the right position and they just fall right on there. I'm going to check the mower deck with my gauge since I had it off of there. Make sure it's all even. Right here I'm at 2 inches. Go to the other side. And I'm right at 2 inches here too. And I'm going to check front to back. There should be a 1/2 inch difference between the front and the back. I'm at 2.5. And the front I'm at 2, so looks good. That's what I use to check the height of the blades on it. Put it down to about the number 3 setting, about halfway down. Measure side to side, make sure you got the same measurements. And then front to back, you want a 1/2 inch higher in the back than the front. Air pressure is important. If you got one low tire, it'll cut crooked on you. And it was low. I usually bring them all up to about 15. They sure don't feel low if you stomp down on them. About the same as the other side. It had about 7 or 8 pounds in it. We'll bring it up to 15. And the same up here in the front. I'll put about 15 pounds in them. Don't take much for these. Okay, I'm ready to test ride it, make sure everything's working okay. I'm going to go down this right side of the driveway 2 times in the same direction and then come back in the opposite direction that 3rd pass. And if it's cutting uneven, it'll surely let me know. But this thing's cutting real nice, even. Everything's working fine, and it's ready to go back home. So, there you have it. This is a typical service job with that one little problem that it had with the belt coming off of it, and it had a lot to do with the bolt pulley's just being loose on it. Most of your jobs aren't this simple. This was an easy couple hours work, and it's the kind of paychecks I like looking for. But anyway, I appreciate you watching. If you like what you see, hit that subscribe button and follow me. Hit the notifications, putting videos up there all the time. That like button helps expose my channel, helps me grow a little bit. So thanks for watching, everybody, and have fun.